Of Melinda Gates, and he stepped down in 2016 with a 30-year career in advertising. So hopefully we'll get a lot of insights from Balki today. I'll have some questions and hopefully he'll give some background. And then I want to use most of the session for your questions to him because I'm sure you will have a lot to ask. So please treat this as a very interactive session with you if that's good with you. So just to start off, everyone knows that you're making this great film called Padman. I wanted to hear from you some of the background, what brought you to this subject, and what was your personal journey into making this film?
It's funny, I started in advertising very early, so 30 years, I'm not that old, but anyway. Actually the very first, as a trainee, when I joined, I was in Mudra at that point in time, I joined Bangalore. One of the first, what do you call, business pitches was for a sanitary pad. It was Comfort or something, it was called, some one of those, Comfort. And I had never seen one before in my life. And there I was just holding the stuff and touching it, pressing it and everything. And suddenly the manager said, "Ati, you don't go out and ask all the women. Let the women go and ask other women." I said, "Okay, fine, but I'm supposed to write the ad. So what do we do?" So there were women, all the, more progressive women from the office. I mean, advertising was hipper then than it is now. So a lot of women went on the streets and scandalized a whole lot of women saying, "Hey, what do you feel about this?" And they had a lot of fun doing this whole thing. It was then that and we got zero answers. It was then that I discovered that, this boldness that a lot of progressive people exhibit in thought is completely out of sync with what people feel about it. And not so much the knowledge, not so much the fear, not so much, it's the basic shyness. It is, even for the most progressive women, I'll give you an example of my own wife, the most progressive women, it's not a conversation that you can have. It's like a shame that they choose to have. It's not a shame, I'm saying it's like shyness they choose to have. I don't want you to discuss it, sometimes when I've got an itch in my bum, I don't want to go and say I've got an itch in my bum. That's for sure. So it's something that, it's private, but it's not taboo, I'm not ashamed of it, but it's private, I don't want to keep talking about it like the hippest thing under the sun. So treat it with that sensitivity. I really learned about this whole thing of when you're trying to make something progressive, when you want to kind of appeal to a lot of people, when you want to talk about a subject that people are hesitant to talk about, it's actually very detrimental to go out there and show your point of view, which has got none of the sensitivities imbued. It just goes there and talks about it like as if, it's water or something like that. You just go there and speak about it like nothing else. And I realized that when I spoke to my mother, and I told my mother when I was doing Padman, I'm doing a thing like Padman. She says, "What? It's Padman. Pad means what?" She's an exam pad, he's writing something in pad. "What do you mean by Padman?" I said, "It's about sanitary pad." Enough. Well, we'll talk about it later. And she went off inside. And funnily enough, this film, a lot of the incidents of the film when I was writing it was based on my mother, because when I was a kid, my mother used to stay outside we had a house and there was a little kind of a out of the house place where the loos were there, and there was this little place inside the room. My mother always used to disappear there for about 3-4 days, and I never knew what she was doing. And I was not allowed to touch her, I was not allowed to kind of do that. And I never asked her what it was assumed. And we were a big joint family, my father had 7 sisters, and every 3 days somebody would be there in that place. And every 3 days I couldn't touch one of my aunts or one of my things. So it was like a woman's corner, it was going there. And what really surprised me most was I never asked what was going on. So my experiences in the film, a lot of the things that I've written in the film is also based on those things of people taking it for granted, people taking a custom and a thing for granted without ever questioning it. But questioning it not like a rebel, but questioning it with the sensitivity that the person who is in that situation is experiencing. And that I think was very important to me. And the reason why I did this film was when Twinkle first called me. She had met Muruganandam, I've seen Muruganandam's documentaries and videos long back, and I was always fascinated by him, but I never thought I'd make a film on him. when she called me and said, I met this guy, shall we do a film on this thing? I said, I don't want to do a film in anybody's life because I like to write my own stories and I prefer fiction than real life. So she said, no, just think about it, it's fascinating. So I thought about it. I said, yes, his life is fascinating, but a feature film on a subject that even advertising kind of approaches with, such trepidation. So advertising just skims over the issue. They talk of nice, happy people in white pants jumping around stuff, and I'm free, the lovely things. And I've always found that very, very funny how they can advertise like that. But to do a film like that, and with the sensitivity it requires, something that I just don't have, a product that I'm, a part of life that I'm just not familiar with, was a great experience for me to kind of get into it and do that. So I thought about it, I said, yeah, I'll do it, but I'll write it first and then I'll decide whether I would do it. Meanwhile, she was writing her short story, I was writing my film. Actually, both of us finished at the same time. So right now we have two fictionalized versions of Muruganandam's story. Completely different versions of her story. Her book is one, my film is another. And to me, actually, the most fundamental driving reason for doing this was, in Lintas we did a campaign for HIV awareness, which is called Balbir Pasha. A lot of people were doing a lot of campaigns on HIV awareness and AIDS awareness. They were saying there was a lot of messaging going on, a lot of clever ads which are going on. So we just had a simple insight. We said, people don't like to be told that they are in danger. People don't like to be told that they are doing something wrong. People don't like to be told that they have to change something in their life. People always like to hear somebody else's story. I thought storytelling is a great way to kind of, any messaging, when you tell a person about somebody else's life, your ears are all open. When I come to your life, it's shut. Don't tell me, I know it all. So Balbir Pasha taught me the first thing in social advertising, in a lot of the advertising we did after that too, was tell me a story. Like children, don't teach me. Just tell me a story. Let me learn from the story that you have to tell me. It happens subconsciously, never preach. So I thought this film was a great way to tell a story about somebody. This film is not a preachy film. It doesn't have one preachy thing in its life. It's just a story about a man's life. And fictionalized enough to make entertaining cinema. So I thought that the moment kind of people see a big star who's telling a very interesting story, all the subliminal messages just go in like that. And I thought that's a great way to kind of approach this topic.
Do you worry that this is a sort of, as you said, people approach it with shyness, with coyness, that you're bringing it out into the open? Do you worry that there might be some backlash or some taboo around it?
No, I don't think there'll be a backlash, but I worry about the number of people coming into the theatre. Only because somebody asked me when I started this film, she says, just imagine yourself with a tub of popcorn with Coke and you're watching a film about chums. Will you do it? I said, why? Why wouldn't I do it? Just think about it. It's not something that people would like. Say, imagine it's a Diwali release. Diwali morning, I eat sweets, have a bath, and so here I am with a tub of popcorn and Coke. Hey, charm, yeah, come, it's damn good, man. Will you do it? I thought to myself really long and hard, and I said, yeah, I'll do it if it's entertaining. And I never speak about chum. It's just an entertaining piece of cinema.
How did you convince your lead actor to act in it? Or was it his wife? Was it you? Was it a combination?
No. It was like, I told him, he said, he had called me for this. Then when I said yes, he said, you're sure I can play this part? I said, yeah, of course I'm sure I can play this part. If you don't play this part, nobody's going to see this film. Because I think it's very important in today's world for cinema not to address itself to the same people who know all about it and kind of applaud the film and write great reviews about it and say, wow, I went to this festival and that festival. But to all the people who don't know about it, for that point to be addressed, you need a big star talking in a language that's very, very different from the language that we appreciate in film festivals and things like that, to reach out to people and say, in your language, I'm talking about a subject that you're not, haven't heard before.
What were some of the things you learned along the process that surprised you? Like when you did the research, when you went into the nuances of the subject, were there some things that you discovered that you didn't know that surprised you or have impacted you in some way? in your own life?
Yeah, hugely. Actually, I became a lot more sympathetic towards PMS in a hell of a lot of ways. Today my wife asks me, when are my periods? What's the dates? Tell me. And if I see her overreacting about something, he said, 10 more days, 5 more days, 6 more days, hang on. So I'm very acute. I have it in my phone. When is her next period? All that I've got my list completely. So I'm acutely aware of all this. I've also got I coined a term for PMS also, which keeps me very, very aware. It's like pitke marega savdhan. It's like one of those things which is good, keeps me on my toes. Second thing is actually, I think Gauri is one of the most progressive, she's got the right amount of progressiveness with the right amount of sensitivity, so she's still very she doesn't think it's cool to talk about periods and things like that out in the open just for the sake of being cool. But what I found a huge difference is, and I've bought a lot of pads I've gone to shops and bought pads and all, so we've got that relationship. She wouldn't like to tell other people, listen, he went and bought a pad for me. So it's not that kind of a thing. But as I was doing this film, and I was just telling somebody here, during the film we were ripping up various pads, various brands of pads, seeing what is this material, what is this thickness, all scientific studies. So before the guy was serving lunch, the thing would be full of pads. She came in the first day into the office and she saw this. She says, can you guys just do this in private a little bit? After a couple of days, she was so comfortable, she started talking about pads in the open. She actually told somebody out there, see if, openly she told my secretary something, just see if I've got my pads in the thing. So I've never heard her speak like that. So even, it just makes it easier for people to talk when you're in the environment of talking about a thing like that. In fact, just that much is enough more than anything. And one of the things, the number of things I've learned. I went to this village. We shot this whole film in MP, one of the slightly more progressive states. Mm-hmm. And we went to a school in one of the villages. Funnily enough, in advertising, and Ashok will vouch for this, we're supposed to know consumers really well. In my 30 years of advertising, I've not gone to one village. Okay, and I've had this completely arrogant stuff, which has worked for me, lucky, that if I get it, everybody will get it. That was always my stuff. I don't need to kind of understand consumers, this and all this stuff. So somebody else would go to villages and tell me this is the finding, and I'd say, no, I don't believe in this stuff, and I'd do something like that. But I realized how much I didn't know when I went to this village, and we were doing a scene with in this school. And it was one of the bigger schools in this village. And there were about 50 kids, carefully chosen, pretty kids. In film, we need some pretty faces. Everybody can't be looking like, popcorn is very important. The popcorn should go in, should not be disturbing the vision. That's really, really important. So we saw that, nice looking, very pleasant looking children, happy smiles, not broken teeth and everything else. We were completely all the things that should not be done and all we did. So, set up the shot. Akshay is supposed to be distributing pads. We did this. You should see the reaction on the girls' faces. They touched the pads. We didn't have to tell them to do anything. It's the first time they were touching pads. It was a live audience. We shot it live. They've never seen it. They touched it. They felt it. They pressed it. They were playing with it. They were laughing. They were giggling. They were opening it. They had never seen it. And all these people were in 9th standard, 10th standard. All of them some of them were actually having their periods as we were shooting there that day. So it was such a beautiful thing to see the joy and the thing. So I'm sure even those 40, 50 people will tell their friends about, they did a thing like this. They acted in a scene in a film. But that's enough to kind of lessen the inhibition that they have to talk to their father or their mother or somebody. And I like this, patriarchal, the rubbish society that we have, where the most useless members of the society, which are the men, have all the authority in dictating how the house will be run. I think it's a great idea in a lot of places, rather than try and change the men, use that authority to make them feel damn wise, To actually say, hey, low, good. Hey, it works, yeah. He's doing something good. Let him not say it in a gentle way, let him say it loudly only. Let him say. So some cases actually, one villager who lent us his tractor. He was one of those, really feudal kind of guys. He had this family. So he asked us, what are you doing? So he was riding the tractor. He refused to give the tractor to anybody. So the shot was a long shot. They had to drive. So I was sitting there, and we were shooting at the back. Anyway, the dialogue was going to be dubbed. So I was shooting at the back, and I was talking to this guy. And I was telling him, we're doing this pads, nobody uses this thing. He was listening. The tractor came to park, his daughters and wife came. He said, Suno, Shivat Suno, Lelo, take 20 pads from them, keep it in the house. And that's an order, an authority. But that order did some good. I'm not here to change his life, how he should behave in life. That there are other people to do it. He'll get whacked in life properly. But he did something good. So we use something that, I think it's about using the society as, the intricacies of society and kind of just getting this into people's lives, which is really, really important.
So that's great. That's a great segue. So you've done advertising for a long time and you refer to the ads that you see now. What would you do differently? Give us some tips on how you would actually market something like this. I know that Ashok has some ideas on how he would market it.
He's got a fantastic product to market, which is a beautiful product. See, I would first, I keep telling people, what do I call this? Most of the country do not understand these three words. They do not understand periods, they do not understand menstruation, they do not understand chums. They have a word I discovered, Akshay discovered, called Mahavri. अरे क्या महीना होता है, महावरी होता है, क्या? And in a lot of other languages, South Indian languages, the word doesn't even exist. They say those 5 days, she's outside, or don't touch her. These are the terms for these kind of stuff. I think if there is a combined effort of all people just to find one Indian word which unites this country, actually find a word which we will address this simple, normal occurrence. If we can address that, which we'll be doing the biggest kind of, favor to this community, to this world. We don't have a word. What are we addressing? We're talking to ourselves when we say menstruation. Nobody understands what we're saying. So if all the brands, the big brands of advertising, would actually say, find a word, they'd run the biggest contest, they do a 360-degree media stuff in finding the word in India to describe this. And the world, everybody, all the girls, all the men, everybody can contribute words. By that itself, the awareness of this one will go up one hell of a lot, just by finding a word for this.
Can you do that on the sidelines of your making the movie? I mean, that's something that you can do as a campaign for your movie.
Yeah, I'll think about it. It's a damn difficult word to find, but I shall think about it for sure. Because it's very important. Trust me, you can't solve a problem which has no name.
Yeah, we'd be happy to support you. So look for a good contest like this, as a run-up to the movie. Okay, how do you think, what more can media and television do? I know that we talk a lot about celebrities, influencers. You've got Akshay, you've got Twinkle, they're big names, people know them. Do you think that they can lend their voice, and how can we get more celebrities on this pathway? What brought them to it? What brought Twinkle to this subject in the first place? How did she happen to stumble upon this?
She just met this guy. She found his life very fascinating. Obviously, Twinkle is a woman who's really interested in a lot of causes, which are very important. Akshay has been doing a lot of socially relevant films in the last 3-4 years. So obviously they were interested. I was the only socially irresponsible person who they got on board. Actually, they were socially kind of very responsible people. I wasn't. So I think a lot of Bollywood celebrities are supporting, are doing things on Twitter. They are doing things on social media. But I really think that they don't have a handle of what to do. How do you want me to support you? They don't have that the handle. They're talking in languages and words which are talking to the same people who know all about it. They still are not able to figure out how to support this cause. How do I reach out? Nobody has kind of, told them that these are suppose you go to a celebrity, like Akshay is really studying this one hell of a lot. Like I think he would be a huge propagator of this. You will see in the next 12 months, you will see
stigma.
He will do a lot to kind of understand the issue, explain the issue, actually explain the process of menstruation to everybody. he will go to great pains. And actually, like I was telling somebody, we're even trying to be the first socially relevant film, which is not fighting for tax-free for itself, but which is going to fight for tax-free for sanitary pads, not for itself.
Yeah.
So we're trying to do as much as possible to raise awareness. Of course, we want the film to kind of work. We want people to see it. We want it to be a commercial success. But more important than that, I don't think Twinkle today or Akshay is in desperate need of just a commercial success doing this kind of a film. This is a film that is very edgy kind of a film, however much you commercialize it.
But how do we crack using celebrities? We talked in an earlier session, people said, they quote the example of Amitabh Bachchan. He did a very successful polio campaign, as you know. He actually converted people to start vaccinating their kids, and it was very successful. So, I mean, just being Amitabh Bachchan, he commands so much respect. And if you give them key messages, apparently that has a great influence. So when you say celebrities don't know, is it because they don't get key messages? They don't get consistent messages? They don't know how to sustain their voice? Are they willing to step out and use their voice, pro bono, because he does it pro bono? Do you think there is an appetite among our celebrities, or do they want to be paid for it? How do you get them on board? Because they do have an influence.
No, I think the one thing you cannot accuse a lot of Bollywood celebrities today is the fact that they're not doing much for social cause. Each one of them is doing a hell of a lot to do their best to whatever cause that there is. Some are doing pro bono, some are being appointed as brand ambassadors for causes, some are being funded, but whatever way it is. Obviously they're not being funded like they would be for a brand, but they will be funding because of their time required. But I think the more important thing is it's very different from polio. It's very different from HIV. It's an issue that we're not even able to pinpoint. We're not able to kind of say it in one line. This is what we have to address. Are we going to tell people use pads? Are we going to tell people be aware? Are we going to tell people it's not a shame? What is it that we're trying to say? What is it that we're trying to do? Because the biggest thing is, somebody asked me a very relevant question. Nothing's happened to me this long. What disease are you talking of? It's like the toilet, when we do the toilet stuff. There was one question which I could never ever answer. We did a huge campaign for toilet I was talking to you about last time. But the one question somebody asked me was, you're telling me that if I go and shit outside, I'm going to get a disease. I'm going to spread disease. But if I shit in my house, I'm not going to get a disease. I'm coming from that toilet, which 3-4 people are going to use in my house, and I'm walking into my house. I go far away from a field. My house is very safe. How do more germs come from that distance to my house, not from this side to my house? I've got all the answers to it. But try explaining to that man who so clearly thought it out. Try just to, because there are tricky problems. It's very tricky issues. Unless as a communication fraternity, we address simple thing. How is that person looking at it? First thing, we just need to look at, okay, what are the taboos? What is the actual issue happening? Is it money? Is it cost? Is it taboo? Is it fear? Is it lack of awareness? Is it just nothing? Is that I'm okay? Is it just I'm absolutely okay with it? What is it that is really kind of
So I think it's
the
some
issue?
of the taboos that we've talked about. Normalizing menstruation to be not what you said, that something that you can't touch, it's impure, there's shame, something that's a very normal bodily function. It's just like getting a headache, you get menstruation. That's it, you have your periods. And that's a normal thing, and people need to provide that support. If you have someone who has a migraine, you provide some support. You give them a cold compress, you give them an aspirin, you tell them to go lie down in a room. Somebody has periods, they lie down, they're not feeling well, they'll be better in 3 days, and that's it. You don't treat that person who has a migraine with some sort of taboo. So how do you normalize it? How can we use the voice of communications, whatever the creative communication, to normalize this? And what role do you think that men can play in this?
I think men can play a huge role, because the moment men start talking about an issue, which it just becomes that much less of a stigma, because it's sometimes women are shy about talking about the issues even amongst themselves. So if a man comes and talks about it, somehow it becomes a little more, it's not such a bad thing to do. It also looks like a lot more caring. I feel that sometimes when men talk about issues they've been insensitive to for ages, and they suddenly depict a bit of sensitivity, women here, you know, I feel that it works that way too. And in our society, I think if men do a few things which are not for their own benefit, I think it'll go a much longer way than the other forms of communication. But I think cinema is a huge tool to do this. And I feel that the film I'm making hopefully should bring out this topic in the open and give people at least they can giggle. I just need them to come out of the theater giggling about a topic. As long as it's a fun thing, make it a normal, everyday course. You can crack jokes on it. You can be emotional about it. You can understand. You can be sensitive. But it's all part of life. As long as you make it like part of life for a normal kind of a thing, I think it works. That's to me the biggest thing.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to open this out to the floor. Questions from people, and just raise your hand and then hopefully I'll get all of you. So, questions? Sure.
Did you have to sensitize your crew to this topic? Was there some kind of training or something? Because I'm sure you had a team work with you and you may have had large demographics working with you. How did you get people to talk about this in a normal, constructive manner?
I spoke to a lot of people who've spoken to a lot of people. Because it is very difficult to, sometimes in cinema what happens is, you shouldn't get bogged down by data. You shouldn't get bogged down by experiences. You know, sometimes you end up making a documentary because you're so moved by the whole thing. I want to be a peripheral understander of life. You know, that's when you can pack it in as entertainment. I find it very difficult once I know too much, whether it's in advertising or cinema, to not look at it from a distance. You know, so I spoke to a lot to her, I spoke a lot to Krishna, I spoke to a lot to people who spoke. And I actually sent out a lot of my team to speak to a lot of people out there. And you did get Muruganandam is the biggest guy to speak to. You speak to him, you've spoken to 1 million women. So he knows a lot of experience. He'll tell you things that are amazing.
Other questions? Sure.
Hi, great to have you here. I wanted to know, the menstrual health issue is surrounded by a lot of choices sometimes. So coming from the area, coming from a team that supports reusable cloth pads, I voice concerns of a lot of us who think that this movie will really push the disposable pads more than, you know, giving the agenda in the favor of a reusable cloth pad. So did these questions trouble you? Did your research explore as to how do you take a stand on this? And we want to know, will this be a burden for us or will this be an asset for us?
See, if you evolve faster than mankind, it's tough for mankind to solve the issues. I set the film in 1999, fortunately, because it is. My entire life of Muruganandam, an incredible man who is kind of seen so much. I mean, beyond everybody in the film, he's the inspiration for this film. But I'll tell you what he said when these things came. He told me a simple thing. First you give rice, no? Then you give protein, then you give this. First the basic. You cannot address in a country which is as big as ours, if you jump to the fourth level of problems without being in a position to address the issue that you have. Actually, if there is an issue, of course it's coming. There will be an issue of what do you do with pads, what do you do with all the material, that's the management of all that stuff. But first, have the pad, then manage the issue. We're already scared of the issue before what is more important, the lives of a lot of women and the hygiene of women, the affordability of it, a lot of things. Is that important? Take it one bit at a time. Let's make them safe, then let's give them a better way to be safe. I think that's the way I would look at it.
Advertising is all about possibilities and scenarios. So, and it's all about insights, where you come from. So just wanted to have pick your brain. If men were in a situation where they would menstruate, how would they approach the entire topic?
See the film. It actually tackles that. It tackles that. See, it's very difficult to, on the surface, experience something. It's the same thing for women. Women will not be able to experience clearly what it is to have a beard. You know, it's spooky. It's irritating. It's a lot of things actually, and it's for both sexes. You cannot, but you can try and understand it to the best level. You can never fully experience that, fully understand the experience. Theoretically, you can understand it to the best possibility. But the film is all about a man actually trying to understand that. A man's actually trying to do that thing. It's impossible. But like advertising, film is all about hope. It's about, I always believe film is about painting a story of how life could be rather than how life is.
Great, we look forward to the film. I just had this one thought that I want to share. I don't know, this is my point of view. I think probably if men would menstruate, they would brag about it.
They would?
They would brag about it. Like how much ever we say that, you know, it's sensitive, but they would brag. They would turn things around that. Like if for Indian cricket team, they say bleed blue, let's bleed blue, like blood of a warrior. The moment like we had an influencer, we did a video with her, and her story is called Only Blood That Bleeds Without Violence. And social media, there's 40% of male, they're coming, oh, what do you mean you want to menstruate in public? Like, I feel that's like kind of hypocrisy.
I don't think so. I think men would die.
Biologically, yes.
Any other questions? Yes, right in the back.
That's the last question.
Thank you. Balki, thank you so much for bringing up this for the world to see and notice. And, our congratulations for that. But as is the norm for any first things, you sort of set the scenario for other people to understand about the issue. So I don't know if you're still in the movie making process or if you're done with it and you're promoting it. But one of the worries is, because we have here a lot of people talking about the issue from various different aspects and bringing a lot of concerns about disposal and cloth or other things and all. So the worry is about the oversimplification for a person who doesn't understand much about it. And I include men in that. But of course, various different stakeholders. So that is the worry that I wanted to share. I don't know, we will see the movie and I'm hoping, and we've seen your past movies and we have great admiration for your work. So we are hoping that one worry will be sort of put to rest.
I'm not sure, but I might get stoned. Just done to the best of our ability, and see, everything will have its pros and cons. I mean, nothing's going to be perfect. Everybody's going to find fault. Saying, is this kind of promoting the use of pads? Hey, what do you want me to do? You tell me whether you want to promote pads or not promote pads. Tell me one. Don't say promote pads, but don't promote pads so much. What do? I'm here to not promote pads. I think I'm here to just tell the life of a man who spent his life making a pad for his wife. That's the film. You know, I didn't set out with a social mission, and I think any filmmaker who sets out with a social mission is treading dangerous ground, because I think the purpose of film is to entertain first and then kind of preach next. But I set out to do this stuff exactly based on a story. So if there's anything wrong with my film, anything remotely good in my film, both ways, please blame Arunachalam Muruganandam.
You have one question?
The man had the guts to go out and do what no one else was doing. I think that's the admiration we got to give the man. Admiration to you and Akshay for going out and talking about it, because you can't solve 100 problems. That's not easy. Technology today helps us do all that. But as a communicator, to take one story and go and change it by saying, let people talk about this openly, I think is the first starting point. If you don't do that, nothing else will work. So, congrats, salams, and full marks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.